What's up, everybody? Make sure real quick that everything is good. All right. So we'll talk about the grid, the possibility of the grid going down and what that would mean. Many organizations and in the news, there's narratives of this happening. The possibility of this happening by natural disaster is possible as well. So we'll take a look at this. The Bible even says to be ready for these types of things, to prepare for these types of, for all events, really. And it's the duty of a Christian to be prepared and to provide. So we'll look into all of that. So the American power grid alone, but this could really be for the whole world, but is vulnerable for many reasons. The geomagnetic storms, solar activity, of course, high altitude, nuclear detonation, cyber attack. These are all high possibilities. Things that have even gone on in the past and that are continuing to go on to this day. This article, August 13th, 2023, a once-in-a-century solar storm could fry the power grids and knock out satellites. Here's why scientists worry that it could happen soon. A similar event, less than 100 years ago, happened, and it was powerful enough to bring down the power grids in America, which would be a terrible, terrible thing. Again, if it's estimated that if that happened, about 90% of the population would die. They would die because people aren't getting their medication, trucks aren't moving, you don't have any heat, anything like this. The grocery stores would stop producing food. I mean, everything of society, we'd be back to just no technology at all. So it would be an absolute terrible disaster. What's up, everybody? Nice to see you guys in the chat. Yeah, just talking about the grid going down and the possibility of this happening through natural means or through a cyber attack or something along these lines. China does this type of thing, even recently trying to attack India's power grid. And so hackers have this possibility as well. And I wanted to point out there's a strange narrative here when you type American power grid, how authorities fear extremists are targeting U.S. power grids, vulnerable U.S. power grids, domestic terrorists could take out power grids. It's a strange narrative that they're pushing here on all these websites. Extremists try to trigger mass blackouts. I mean, this clearly isn't happening, and it's really not a threat by domestic terrorists. So it's just a strange narrative that they're putting out there. And I mean, you type American power grid, you don't get information about how it works or what it is. You're getting articles about how domestic terrorists are going to bring it down. So that's definitely kind of strange. China, though, of course, becoming the world's superforce, really. And here they are. Here's a video of them attacking Iran's power grid.
Tensions between New Delhi and Beijing could be simmering once again in a new potential flashpoint. Intelligence reports saying Chinese hackers were trying to hit the power grid systems near India's northern Union territory of Ladakh, which shares a long border with China. Now, according to the intelligence firm Recorded Future, the Chinese hackers were trying to gather information surrounding the critical infrastructure systems and target Indian electricity distribution in the centers near Ladakh. The report saying that activity by the Chinese hackers seen over the last 8 months. Sources saying the attacks took place between August last year and March.
So there you go. China doing hack attacks on India's power grid. They could definitely do this overseas, and there's even underwater cables that connect continents with internet and things along these lines. And it's kind of strange that when Trump was in office here, he creates the United States Space Force trying to maybe protect against an EMP attack, which would be just a nuclear explosion over the continent, would wipe out America's power grids. And we're really doing nothing to harden our power grids. It's definitely a threat that is open. Just wanted to say what's up to you guys in the chat. Nice to see you. Thanks for the compliments on everything, and God bless. Yeah, of course, Psalm 91, we trust in the Lord and his protection. But just like I saw someone said, we need to be preparing physically most important spiritually, but physically as well. And I do not have Twitter. That's a frustrating platform. But it's a little better now. But it used to be so frustrating when you get on and all there was these left-wing nonsense being pushed. So here we have DHS.gov talking about the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, combating the potential electromagnetic pulse attack. This is from 2020, but just shows, it's something that's definitely on their mind. One reason why they have these underground bases, because then they're safe when they have like these deep underground military bases, such as NORAD, or the ones that are believed to be under like the Denver airport. If you have things that are underground or things that are in a Faraday cage, these things will be protected from electromagnetic pulses, whether from, again, a nuclear explosion in the atmosphere or from a solar storm or something along these lines. And I'll get more into how you can protect some of your stuff against it, and that this wouldn't be as terrible, I don't think, as they imagine, but it would still be very, very bad if this happened. And the possibility is there. We, again, don't know the prophetic timeline, just like when the tsunami hits in Japan or when the tsunami hits in Southeast Asia, that wasn't a fulfillment of prophecy, but it was a terrible, terrible thing. So it's good to just be prepared for any possibility. Here is an article. Electromagnetic pulse expert warns the EMP is the biggest danger to America. And again, 90% of people, it's estimated, would not survive that type of attack. So here's a few things that you can do to protect against an EMP. You can turn off or unplug any of the non-essential equipment that you have, because anything that's plugged in, just like when a surge from a thunderstorm can kill your electronics that are plugged in, just having these things unplugged will protect them, or having surge protected things plugged into surge protected power strips. You can use types of building material that is protecting against that. Anything in metal is safe. And these types of things, you can build a Faraday cage using aluminum. It's just a metal cage. Anything that's within a metal cage will be completely safe. So if you wanted to protect, because that's a worry too, because if your car, any new car, it's like any car from 1986 or something beyond, would be completely destroyed. Again, it would be a massive, massive, massive hit to the world wherever that happened. And we've had solar storms fairly recently on these same levels. So there's a lot of people who have buildings like this, or a lot of cars that are parked underground, different things along these lines. So I don't think that the power grid, that this type of attack would totally wipe every single thing across the nation out, because people would still have stuff like this safe, and generators that are within places like this that people could help to bring society back on track. So I don't think it would really be like the book 1 second after, where it's just like, the absolute end. Because again, when the absolute end comes, it'll come across the lines of prophecy. But these are just a possible threat, really, that could happen. And really just to get you thinking that there's a lot of different possibilities that could happen. Like I mentioned, the tsunami or a terrible earthquake, EMP, a lot of these things, we don't know the timeline of prophecy. If prophecy doesn't fully fulfill, if we don't get to the book of Revelation for another 30 years, people are going to experience different things in the world. So it's good to be prepared for these things. Proverbs 22:3 says, "A prudent person sees danger and takes refuge, but the simple keep going and they pay the penalty." So if you see danger, or you see possible threats or something along these lines, get ready, prepare for these things. Most important spiritually, being right with Jesus in your heart, in your life, in your actions, and for your family, but then also to be prepared for any type of outcome that could come. 1 Timothy 5:8, "But if anyone does not provide for his own, especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." So if somebody is not even providing for their family, then you're worse than someone who doesn't even believe in Jesus. I mean, that's a strong and powerful statement, but it shows the importance of being aware of these things and preparing for these things. And if you see danger coming down the line, and the wise person takes refuge, but the simple, they go on without doing anything and they pay the penalty. It's exactly that. This is Bible here. So everybody basically knows there's no real point to go over survival gear that you would need: food, water, different types of currency. I mean, probably one of the greatest threats, at least in America, is the possibility, the eventual outcome of our US dollar being absolutely worthless. When that happens, what are we going to use to buy stuff, or inflation through the roof? I mean, when that happens, that could be the fulfillment of the black horse of Revelation, who says, a meal for a day's wages, and that'll be the cost of food. For one meal will be an entire day's wages. And that could be because of the dollar collapse and because of food scarcity and all these different things. So it's important. And just like the virgins in the Bible preparing for the bridegroom, they took extra lamps for their oil, or they took extra oil for their lamps, and they were the ones who were able to go and meet the bridegroom. The ones who didn't, and they didn't bring any extra oil, they had nothing. They had to go to town, and then the bridegroom came. When they came back, they weren't ready. Again, the most important aspect of that is being spiritually ready to meet Jesus at any time, but also to be physically ready to prepare for your family. And again, you should always just, if you're going to prepare and you have extra money to stock up on things or be ready for something, have things that you will use down the line. Because again, anybody who would have got stuff a couple of years ago, even if you had to use it now, you bought it way cheaper than it is now. So you're saving money at least down the line. So this is really important. It's something to be watchful of, to pray about, and to just have your mind in the right place in this, and pray about it, see what God wants you to do. But again, it's important for these different things. So this is a possibility. An EMP attack could happen. There's different ways it could. And if it does, I just want you all out there to be prepared. But again, there's probably more likely threats out there, like our dollar collapsing, things along these lines, war, nuclear war. But nuclear war could absolutely lead to an EMP attack, which there's a lot of talk about that going on right now. So that's kind of why I bring this up. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, if this is stuff that you are interested in. This is kind of some update videos that I'll do on this channel. But yeah, again, most importantly, be spiritually right with the Lord. And as someone in the chat said, keep the whole armor of God on, and keep up with your spiritual preparations and spiritual warfare over your physical, because truly the spiritual is what matters. But again, like the Bible tells us, we need to be providing for our families and being wise and getting ready for what could happen down the line. I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of people who are preppers, a large majority of them, are Christians. I think that if we're here for part of or all of the tribulation, that's no coincidence, that it's like a phenomenon within the Christian community, which makes sense because a large part of what we believe is that the world's going to end and it's going to happen soon. So it makes sense. So just want to keep the video tied to this. If you guys are interested in this subject, leave in the comments, and maybe we'll do like a longer live stream hangout talking about survival stuff, different things that could happen, and pull up lots of different outcomes and things like this. But it's good to see you guys in the chat. I pray you all are well, and hopefully, and we'll pray that for good things, but again, be ready for all possible outcomes, and just pray for the Lord's will to be done. I pray you guys are all well. Thanks for watching, and God bless.